pieces are floating away. Oh, look at them all.
Winds now up to 130 miles per hour.
Every 5 minutes, a tree was falling so close that the entire house and the entire foundation of the house was shaking around us.
It's hard to fathom that the water was all the way up there and it came from down here.
Helene will go down as one of the most impactful hurricanes to strike the United States. The wind and catastrophic storm surge in Florida and the record-breaking flooding in Georgia and the Carolinas resulted in tens of billions of dollars in damages. Our chase group captured some of the most dramatic footage from the event, but before we could get into the story of how this all came together, I did want to take a brief moment to thank the sponsor of this documentary, BetterHelp. Dealing with the destruction of these storms can be very difficult for those impacted. It's not uncommon to feel depressed or stressed even long after the storm has passed. I've actually dealt with some of these feelings just from witnessing these horrible events time and time again. For instance, after capturing Fort Myers Beach wash away during Hurricane Ian, I essentially had survivor's guilt and depression for months after the event. I highly considered going to therapy, and in hindsight I really should have, but with how much I travel for storm chasing, I found it pretty hard to schedule an in-person consultation. This is where BetterHelp comes in. BetterHelp is an online platform where you can find a licensed therapist right from the palm of your hand. Whether you're in the comfort of your home or on the road like me, you can easily find the right therapist by going to betterhelp.com/maxolson and answering a few quick questions. Usually within just a few days, you'll be matched with a therapist that's right for your specific circumstance. I also love that you can communicate with your therapist via phone chat, phone call, or messaging, whatever's most comfortable for you. If you're ready to take the next step towards better mental health, click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/maxolson and get 10% off your first month of therapy. Our story for Helene actually begins a few months earlier. All indications were that the season could be a record breaker with above average sea surface temperatures and an El Nino transitioning to La Nina, amongst other parameters. Beryl was the first chase opportunity of the season. At its peak, it was a ferocious Category 5, but by the time it reached us on the Texas coastline, it was a much more tame Category 1. Still, we enjoyed some intense winds and even some minor storm surge on Surfside Beach, southeast of Houston. The rest of July, August, and early September were pretty quiet, other than Category 1 Debbie, which I passed on chasing. Around September 10th, a disturbance in the Gulf looked like it would eventually become Hurricane Francine, so we decided to go check it out. To our surprise, a favorable jet interaction actually really ramped up the storm before landfall, and it even briefly became a Category 2. We went on the other side of the levees near Cocodrie, Louisiana, to document the surge as it came in. The speed in which the water increases once the winds flip is fascinating to watch in person. For the past few years, I've relied solely on my probes to capture this, and for good reason because the storm surge is extremely dangerous, and I usually prefer focusing on the winds anyway. But something this year was different. I really wanted to try and continue capturing the storm surge in person. After Francine, the computer models were all over the place about a potential system developing from a Central American gyre setup. These can be tricky to forecast as it can take a while for a concentrated area of low pressure to develop, but by September 23rd, the writing was on the walls. Every single forecast model showed a hurricane developing, and most indicated a higher than average likelihood of rapid intensification. We arrived in Tampa on September 25th and immediately started heading towards the coast. For this chase, I'd once again be teaming up with my colleagues Aaron Rigsby and Michael Hoynes. For the first leg of the trip, Aaron would be off doing prep coverage for AccuWeather, while Michael and I went to start deploying probes all throughout the Big Bend region. Now, the year before during Hurricane Idalia, I had put a probe on the Jenna boat ramp in Steinhatchee, but this pole was only about 8 feet off the ground and almost went underwater during that storm. With the potential for double that amount of surge, we knew we had to look elsewhere. Eventually, we found ourselves at the marina across the way, and after talking to the owners, they said they'd allow us to put a probe on their upper balcony looking off towards the west. In the foreground of this image, behind the palm tree, is Roy's Restaurant, a seafood joint that was a favorite amongst locals and had been operating since the 1960s. Next up was Keaton Beach. While many were boarding up and leaving town, some were actually still out enjoying the beach. We ended up meeting the Dent family as they were packing up and getting ready to evacuate. They had a home that looked like it could survive the storm, and they allowed us to strap a probe on one of their concrete pillars. As night fell on the 25th, Helene continued to organize with deep convective bursts wrapping around the center. It looked like a major hurricane landfall was a given at this point. We woke up on the morning of September 26th in Crawfordville. The camera probes were all deployed, but now we had to finalize where we would ride out the storm. The previous few model runs had been going back and forth on the landfall anywhere from Carabel to Perry, and if possible, we wanted to be on that eastern side of the storm to experience the storm surge in person. As we looked at all the morning data and satellite trends, we felt pretty confident in a more eastern track, so we packed up our bags and headed back to Steinhatchee. Michael and I had already scoped out a few locations the day before, however, none of them felt quite safe enough with the now predicted 15 to 20 feet of surge. Eventually we got in touch with a local realtor that had a unit available for rent in a fortified, steel-framed building on 10-plus foot concrete pilings. If we were going to attempt to place ourselves in the surge zone, this was the building to do it in. Since the area around the condo was so low-lying, we had to take out all of our belongings and park our cars on the bridge about a mile away. This bridge stood 25 plus feet above the water, so even if maximum surge levels were reached, we knew we could at least keep the vehicles safe from the water. After saying farewell, we got a ride back to the condo and we were officially on our own. It was around this time that Aaron and I started finalizing all of our gear, and Michael started walking around the complex. A few minutes later, he came back with a very unexpected surprise. Alright, so the storm is 3 hours away? And we found a little cat outside.
He was gonna be in the surge.
No tags.
No tags.
And the
unneutered
place we're staying in has tuna. Hey, buddy.
You want some?
We named the little fella Tuna since that's all we had to feed him, and decided he'd be staying with us for the remainder of the storm. Alright, so what we got going on?
Alright, so it's September 26th, the night of landfall at 5:18, and we have Hurricane Helene right here. It's rapidly strengthening, potentially to a Category 4. We are right here, should make landfall right around here, which is going to send 15 to 20 feet of surge right outside our front door.
Alright, 7:30, it's starting to get dark. Looks like landfall's going to be a little bit later than we were originally thinking, but this is looking east out the east window. Unfortunately, these are probably not going to be here in the morning. Helene was now a formidable Category 4 hurricane with a central pressure of 938 millibars. To ease my nerves, I went outside to remind myself just how sturdy our structure actually was. One of the main reasons we're riding it out here is because of how well it's built. These pilings are concrete and they're about 12 feet high off the ground, and then they go into welded steel, which all of these run all the way up throughout the building. We also have a concrete elevator shaft there and good hurricane siding, so I expect this to be a perfect place to ride out the storm, but there's places, just next door that are not. The Eyewall was now just offshore, and we decided to head downstairs to film. The first half of the storm we'd have offshore flow, meaning the surge would be kept at bay and we could film the wind. But the second it started flipping to onshore flow, we'd only have minutes to retreat before the deadly surge arrived. Big lightning. Wow.
It's a fan blade.
A few minutes earlier, Michael had gone upstairs to grab something, only to find our balcony door wide open. He attempted to secure the latches, but with the gusts only getting stronger, I suggested they go check again to make sure nothing was coming apart, especially with our furry friend Tuna hiding out. Michael, you want to go check upstairs, make sure our door's good? Thank you.
Go, go, go.
areas that don't have like extra latches. Moments after they went upstairs, I heard what sounded like a jet engine coming right towards me. A mesovortex had gone right over us, and I had to duck for cover in the nearby elevator shaft. Even inside, Aaron and Michael could feel the impact of it as well.
It opened. Something did. Why did something that wasn't right?
Something fell.
My ears popped.
Yeah, mine did too. We might have just got a big gust.
What's that?
Like, you were under the door. That was a mesovortex for sure. That was scary hearing that come. Holy crap. You ready?
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, we gotta watch out for debris.
Yeah. Put debris there. It hit, our ears popped violently, and we thought the door went down.
Yeah, we thought it was down.
The gutter got ripped off, the wind switched completely and threw right through here. And I had to run into that hallway.
Oh my god.
That's crazy.
Watch out for all this stuff.
Here, come over here.
I got it.
It was around this time we noticed the wind was starting to switch, and the surge would soon be here. Lightning revealed the river current fighting the rising ocean water. We all decided to go back upstairs to dry up our gear and grab some new batteries. Once inside, it became clear that the storm was taking a toll on our doors and windows. The main living room doors were having trouble staying latched, and one of the bedroom doors was flexing and letting in a lot of water.
Let's do it. We need to do it like soon though. Alright, phone problem solved. Oh!
It's just not holding at all. Hold on. Those inner latches probably came off. I know, that's what we can try and figure out maybe real quick. The upper latch kept falling out due to the door shaking, and the bottom latch was misaligned from the hole. We knew we had to get this situated quickly, as an open door could create a wind tunnel throughout our unit. So, I'm just guessing it wasn't fully in there from the start. Across the way at the marina, the surge probe captured the winds whipping the palm trees, and the probe up in Keaton Beach captured the last few moments of light in town. We had only been upstairs for about 10 minutes before somebody looked out a window and realized the surge was rushing in, fast. It was already over a foot deep by the time we scrambled to get outside to shoot. 2, 3.
Oh my god, yeah. Alright, let's go down. This is our house.
Look at it.
Alright, let's walk over to the stairs. Walk over to the stairs. Okay, going down.
Let's get one quick shot low and then let's houses. Michael, let's go through the houses. 24 up.
They're moving.
Oh, they are moving.
Yeah. They're floating. Oh my god, look at her roaring. going down. Yep. Get another shot of the houses. Point it out here. Look at they're floating.
Oh, floating. Houses are floating away. Oh, look at them all.
All of them.
Go up one level so we're not right over.
First shot of this. We're still safe. I feel comfortable. I feel good.
Alright, give me the GoPro and the small flashlight. Is there a small flashlight, Michael? He has it, yeah.
Oh, there it goes. Literal house is floating away. That house is floating. The big house. Keep it on the house. Yes.
We might be able to go on the balcony and look out now that the wind shifted some. The wind shifted some. We might be able to get a shot of it going into the river.
Point it out there, Michael. Up.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. These are literally all piled up. Those trees are the only beauty in that. The storm surge was now at its peak height, and all of the small houses next door had floated into the tree line. Across the river at the marina, things were just as bad, and now Roy's restaurant was floating straight towards the marina. For context, here's what the scene looked like just a few hours earlier. After the restaurant impacted, all of the lights in the marina went out, and only occasional lightning illuminated the landscape. Back at our condo, some of the houses were starting to break free from the tree line and float into the river.
Two made it out.
do you guys think?
This is crazy. I've never seen surge. Well, I've seen like remnants of surge. I've never seen surge come up so fast before. We went upstairs to get some stuff and recharge our batteries. Not recharge, put them back in. Look downstairs, grass is gone, and it's just a big surge. Houses start floating. Sanity. Helene's here.
We're still safe right now. Eventually, the surge started receding, and we crept our way back downstairs.
It's hard to fathom that the water was all the way up there and it came from down here.
By this point, it was almost 2 a.m., so we returned to our unit to make a little bit of food and try and rest up for a few hours. Tuna hid under the bed for most of the night, which was the perfect little spot that kept him safe even when the doors were blowing open. We all managed to get a few hours of sleep before the sun rose and showed us the full extent of what had transpired the night before. After documenting some of the initial damages, we got the cars from the bridge and brought them back to the condo. While we desperately wanted to take Tuna home with us, we actually found out he might belong to someone in the area, so we left him with the owners of the condo. The goal now was to leave town and get out of the way for the emergency crews and returning residents. Michael and I would stay in Florida to eventually collect the probes once things had settled down, while Aaron continued north to document the inland flooding threat. After giving them a few days to recover, Michael and I returned to Taylor County to collect the probes. The damage by the marina in Steinhatchee was among some of the most significant in town. Roy's had gone from a beautiful riverside restaurant to a pile of rubble pressed up against the marina. Many other buildings nearby had similar fates. Next up was Keaton Beach. The storm surge damage here was absolutely unbelievable. Over half of the houses were completely washed away. Here's a view from what the probe looked like the day before landfall, during the peak of the storm, and then a day after landfall. I'd also filmed some of the houses on the dash camera the day before landfall, and now most of them were just gone. While we were processing this destruction, Aaron was up in the Carolinas documenting a completely different area of carnage. While Helene did weaken as it moved inland, it was still producing intense winds that knocked down entire forests.
Every 5 minutes, a tree was falling so close that the entire house and the entire foundation of the house was shaking around us. We had the kids with us. We were on a mat below the bed thinking that something could come through. Outside, looking out the window, so we had one little window we could see outside, and through that window we could only see 30 yards. I mean, they were literally looking like they were touching the ground and then coming back up and then going the other way and then snapping like toothpicks. And out that one window that we had an entire forest of view, and within an hour and a half there was one tree left standing.
Then there was the inland flooding threat. As the hurricane interacted with the low pressure system that was pulling it north, it wrung out all its remaining moisture over the mountainous regions of the western Carolinas. Numerous small towns were completely erased by debris flows and mudslides. This was clearly a very historic event, and I wanted to learn more about what made it so catastrophic. So I reached out to Zach Taylor, a meteorologist at the Weather Prediction Center who was on desk working the forecast during this event.
Kind of stepping back, looking at the larger scale pattern, in the mid to upper levels there was this cutoff low that was kind of positioned over the mid-Mississippi Valley. And that was going to help dictate kind of the steering flow for ultimately where Helene tracked through the eastern Gulf and then into the southeast. And so that led to some predictability challenges that were kind of in that medium range lead time range, so that days 3, 4, 5, 6. But by about, day 4, day 5 out, from the event, so this is like, the Sunday or Monday ahead of when it made landfall on Thursday and Friday, at WPC, we were beginning to message the potential for some excessive rainfall and some flash flood risk. And so the introduction of the slight risk in our excessive rainfall outlook, which is a level 2 out of 4, was introduced for portions of Georgia, Florida, of course, and then into the Western Carolinas. So there was already at least, a pretty good lead time in terms of knowing that if this track continued and the rainfall was going to spread further inland into the southeast, that given some of the pre-existing sensitivities like we talked about with terrain and things like that, that was probably not going to be a good scenario. But by the middle of the week, so this is now like Tuesday and early Wednesday morning, there was increasing confidence that both the combination of that mid-upper level low feature, which was in itself going to produce some heavy rainfall over the region, and now the increased confidence in the track of Helene through Florida up into the Carolinas and Georgia, that was going to result in a kind of a longer duration extreme rainfall event. So at that point at WPC, we were recognizing this scenario unfolding that was not going to be really great. So we upgraded a large area of the excessive rainfall outlook to a moderate for portions of Georgia, Florida, and to the Carolinas, and then also introduced the high risk in excessive rainfall outlook, which is level 4 out of 4 for northeast Georgia and all the Western Carolinas. So that was about 48 hours ahead of the worst impacts of the flash flooding. So it was about a 48-hour lead time in terms of that high risk being issued for the Western Carolinas. And so at that point, from then on, from the rest of the event, it was just messaging the severity of the increasing severity of that flash flooding. So then it becomes, catastrophic, historic. The rainfall totals were being nudged upward to over 20 inches. And at that point, is trying to do anything we could to try to message it that it was going to be a truly, catastrophic event that was going to be on some sort of historic level as we got into kind of the 24 hours before landfall. On the Wednesday before landfall, so this was about 24 to 36 hours ahead, NOAA released a very rare press release focused just on the inland flood threat and highlighting that people well inland should be prepared for the catastrophic, life-threatening flooding due to the expected rainfall amounts over that sensitive area in the terrain. And that is, in my career with the Weather Service and NOAA, that was extremely rare. There's only a handful of times that there's been an operational weather event press release, basically in real time, trying to highlight beyond what is our normal product suite, right? So that kind of speaks to the awareness that we had at WPC, but also NHC, the National Water Center, and just all together with the Weather Service in general, recognizing that this was going to be something different and that we just had to pull out everything we could to get the word out. And terrain plays a very crucial role in determining the severity of the flood, any potential flash floods. The different slopes and elevation changes and the complex terrain basically is going to route water quickly in certain areas as it moves down. So that kind of limits where water can go, and that means it's going to rapidly rise in certain areas, and that's typically associated with like rivers, streams, creeks, things like that. So with Helene, we saw just incredible rapid rises of water on a widespread area of river basins and creeks and things like that, and that is definitely was part of the concern, forecasting the event leading up to it and several days ahead, was knowing that the amount of rain that was being forecasted on an area that's incredibly sensitive just because of the terrain alone was going to be kind of a very big concern. So, within that, there's, in addition to just seeing the rapid rises on the watershed, there is the other piece that came into play was the landslides and the mudslides and the debris flows, and that was what was also incredibly catastrophic for the area, was just the amount of earth movement that happened. You know, there was so many areas that experienced landslides and mudslides, just where the side of the mountain basically kind of gave way due to the overwhelming amount of water that was falling on the region. And so that's kind of another part that we try to message when we have these higher impact flash flood events, is the fact that there's going to be potential for, you know, landslides or mudslides, where actually there's going to be, you know, some sort of movement with the earth, and that's ultimately, you know, was a big component of this disaster.
By September 29th, I was wrapping up my time in Florida, but before leaving, I did make one final pit stop in Fort Myers Beach to honor the 2-year anniversary of Hurricane Ian. While significant progress had been made, it was a bit disheartening to see all this new damage from Hurricane Helene. The pole I strapped the probe to was still there, but the spot that the house once stood was now a sand-filled parking lot. I departed the island with a mixed bag of emotions, as I knew hurricane season was far from over, and little did I know in that moment that I would be right back down there just over a week later. Thank you all so much for watching. Please consider checking out the donation links down below. Stay safe out there. I'll catch you in the next one.